What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another episode of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, and today I'm going to be giving you my fantasy booking for WWE SummerSlam 2018. Pay-per-view's coming up. It's the biggest party of the summer, one of the biggest events of the year, and I wanted to tell you what I would do if somebody gave me the tools and the keys to run the ship. You know, what would I do if I had creative control, essentially? So, we have some rules, we have some things in mind to keep track of, and I will give you a rundown of how that all works, just for people that haven't been a part of this in the past and don't really know how the structure is and stuff. First things first, what we need to take care of are the ground rules. The first thing that we have to establish is just how far back we can actually go and change what has already happened. Remember, this is all in hindsight. Hindsight is 2020, and want to stick to as many of the rules as possible, but we can't go back to 20 years ago and start changing a whole bunch of things like that. So, as a good starting point, I think the only fair way to go about this is to say you can only go back as far as the night after WrestleMania. So you can book the Raw after WrestleMania, the SmackDown after WrestleMania, and so on and so forth, but you can't undo what happens at WrestleMania. Now, I set that rule a while ago for SummerSlam in previous years, and this year, more than anything, that became tough. So keep that in mind when it comes to what I ended up actually doing for my card. The second ground rule is that all ideas have to be at least somewhat realistic, and they have to be somewhat justifiable within WWE's mindset. What I mean by that is you can't take somebody who is a total jobber and immediately start pushing them to an absurd level. For instance, I don't care if your favorite is Heath Slater. Slater is not the type of guy that would beat Brock Lesnar in a 20-second squash match immediately after WrestleMania. It's just not going to happen. You also have to keep in mind certain people that WWE board of trustees and everybody else like that, the other people that are in creative, because it's not just you that's doing this, it's other people too. You got to assume Vince McMahon's part of this, you know, anybody else that's like that. People that they like to push are going to be somewhat in the realm of being pushed. So you might not be the biggest fan of somebody like a Roman Reigns, but you shouldn't just go, no, he's not on the card. You know, you have to give a reason for it. Number 3, you can't put superstars who are not actually in the kind of like current landscape on the card. If they've retired, you can't just suddenly go, oh, you know what? Well, they're not injured anymore. If they have died, you can't bring them back to life. If they are not employed by WWE, we can't just go, well, I would have signed them and I would have done this. It's a different story. They're ineligible. You can't use them. You're only working with this roster. Number 4, you can't just bring up everybody from NXT. You know, you can bring up some people, of course, because they always bring up some people. I would say try to keep it to the same people that are actually in NXT right now, but you might not necessarily have to stick with that 100% either. Just because somebody's in NXT doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to be coming up to the main roster at all. Just because they've come up to the main roster doesn't mean that you have to use them as they've come up to the main roster, because you can say, you know what, I probably wouldn't have signed No Way Jose to Monday Night Raw. You can play around with it a little bit, but don't just go, well, 50 people from NXT come up and they're all in the main event. That's ridiculous. You also have to take into account time constraints. This is typically a 4-hour show plus a 2-hour pre-show. Can't just add another 6 hours to it to get 40 matches on the card. It's not how it works. Also, this is kind of to do a little bit with the second idea of realistic and justifiable. If they're a marquee name, you can't just leave them off the card. You can't just say, and believe me, there was a chance that I was trying to say it here, of Brock Lesnar, because I am not the biggest fan of Brock Lesnar. You can't just go, no, I don't like him, I'm not going to use him. If there is somebody who is really, really, you know, one of those bankable star type people, you'd be stupid not to use them. So keep that in mind. That's kind of how things have to go. That's what you're working with. You can play around with certain things. Other things you can't necessarily play around with. So the first thing we have to talk about on my card is actually the pre-show. And before we even get into the match that you see on the screen right now, if you're on YouTube, obviously you don't see a screen when you're on iTunes and Stitcher, but we have to talk about the extras. Now, that includes panel analysis, the video packages, the social media lounge talk, any little commercials that they want to advertise. I don't know why I say it, advertise like that. Anything that's extra. And by extra, I mean extra. They're not a priority. The recap material, I think, is ridiculous in WWE, and one of my mandates has always been not as much recap material. If people don't know what's going on, watch Monday Night Raw, watch 205 Live, watch SmackDown, and then you'll figure out what's going on. And then maybe you won't be confused. If you can't figure out what's going on from a 1 or 2 minute pre-match thing that happens on the card itself, you shouldn't have to watch a 2-hour pre-show to figure it out and then get that thing on the main card itself, too. It's stupid. No, you've already watched this for multiple weeks, and if you haven't, it's wrestling. It's not that difficult to understand. The only thing I would add on here is that there would be some kind of a spot for Elias to do a musical segment. So, that's just one other thing. But you can see a match on the card right now on your screen, because I didn't add an extra thing on top of it, whatever. I'm not going to do an extra graphic. So the first match of the card, at least on the pre-show, is Andrade, Cien, Almas, and Zelina Vega versus Rusev and Lana in a mixed tag team match. The way that this goes about is maybe actually what we're going to be getting at SummerSlam. These two are actually kind of feuding right now. And you might see this go over the next couple of weeks or so, and maybe they even do this kind of a match. I don't know. It's probably just going to be Almas versus Rusev, but who knows. Rusev and Lana, full-fledged babyfaces. These two are going to be fixtures of that United States Championship scene, and I want Almas and Vega to come out with a victory. I want this to be a hard-fought match. I want Lana to get some good kicks in for Zelina Vega. I want Vega to look strong. I want everybody to look strong. But the biggest priority of the whole thing is making Almas look strong. So, at the end of the day, he gets a kick on Rusev. He wins the match. He does whatever he needs to do. He cheats. It goes down the way it goes down. Almas and Zelina Vega, they get the victory. That takes us into the other match that's going to be on the pre-show, and the thing that I'm going to have to explain the most out of everything that's going on here. The Women's SummerSlam Scramble match. This match features Bayley, Becky Lynch, Ember Moon, Nia Jax, and Sasha Banks. And if you've followed WWE for a bunch of years, you may remember the Championship Scramble. It is not the most elegant thing in the world, but it also was kind of interesting in how chaotic it was. And it seems like every pay-per-view, to be able to get everybody on the card, needs some kind of a throw everybody in the match type of scenario. The Royal Rumble has the Royal Rumble. Actually has 2 Royal Rumbles now. The Andre the Giant and WrestleMania Women's Battle Royals happen at WrestleMania, obviously. Money in the Bank has the Money in the Bank ladder matches. Survivor Series has the Survivor Series matches. So we need something for SummerSlam. And normally I would put the Money in the Bank matches on here, but I'm more open to the idea of having that be its own pay-per-view, the way that, we did it this year. So instead, let's go with the Scramble. My theory behind this is you have 5 people, and you don't necessarily have to have it from certain amount from Raw and SmackDown. Maybe potentially you even add a 6th one if you want to do 3 on Raw, 3 on SmackDown. For this, at the very least, I stuck to the previous Scramble idea where it was only 5 people, and you could do the same kind of idea with the countdown. It's kind of like a gauntlet. It is essentially you start off with 2 people. After a certain amount of minutes, another person comes in. After a certain amount of minutes, another person comes in, etc. And then you have a little bit of a countdown clock. And in the meantime, whoever scores a pinfall is the interim winner of that match. And whoever is the last person with a pinfall victory or a submission is the one who's the winner of the match. It's a little bit confusing, but I think that toying around with it a little bit and explaining it a little bit better to certain people and just showing them how it works can go a long way. And you might be going, oh my god, why are Zelina Vega and Lana and 5 women on the pre-show? Are you trying to screw the women over? No. There are, I think 3 other matches on the card that involve women. So, it's not going to be really the problem, Actually, maybe there's only 2. Now that I'm looking at that, it looks like there might be only 2. But there's still 2 women's matches on the card already, and 2 women's matches, well, one's a mixed tag, on the pre-show. And you got to put something there. And every other match I felt was more important to a certain extent. So keep that in mind. I'm not trying to screw the women over on here. Just somebody has to go on the pre-show. And I'm sick and tired of it being the cruiserweights all the time. I think that they deserve more. Speaking of which, we're going to start off the actual main card with the Cruiserweight Championship. And in my scenario for Cedric Alexander defending the championship against Lio Rush, we have Alexander do somewhat similar to what he has done, but with a little bit of tweaks. He has a feud with Hideo Itami. He has a feud with TJP. I don't know if I would put him with Buddy Murphy. I liked Buddy Murphy a lot, and I think that I might have tried to have saved him for later down the line. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I also would not have put him being Alexander, against Drew Gulak, because I feel like Gulak has a babyface run in him. And why would you pair him up with Alexander at that point? So instead, Lio Rush comes up right after WrestleMania, and by the time we get to SummerSlam, he's been built up enough that he can definitely take the title away from Alexander. And eventually, down the line, he will either drop the title to Drew Gulak or to Mustafa Ali. This would just be a good way to start the card off with a bang. It starts off with a title change, some high-flying action, some great in-ring quality work, and that's it. Just get the crowd to start off hot. The second match on the main card is for the Raw Tag Team Championship, and we are going to get the Hardy Boys and Bray Wyatt, only 2 of them, but I don't really care necessarily who, against the Authors of Pain. Now, this is how the Raw Tag Team titles would have gone down. I can't change WrestleMania, so I can't change Strowman and Nicholas, but they vacate the titles just the same as they did, and we get the whole Greatest Royal Rumble is going to be, let's figure out who can win the titles back from the vacation kind of thing. From the vacation, yeah, they went to Disney World. And the Hardy Boys and Bray Wyatt win. The reason why I'm keeping Jeff Hardy here is because I don't know if Jeff Hardy is able to actually wrestle with his injuries, and if you keep them as a stable, then you can kind of use Jeff here and there, but you can also depend mostly on Matt and Bray. They win those titles, they defend them here and there, whatever the case may be. Jeff never goes to SmackDown in the Superstar Shakeup. That doesn't happen at all. We'll get down to that in a few minutes. And eventually we get to the point where the Authors of Pain have beaten down everybody that they need to beat down, and they deserve the title shot, and they win the titles here. Maybe they keep them the entire time until WrestleMania 35. Maybe they don't. Either way, they're going to lose the belts to either the Revival or a renewed American Alpha. And by renewed American Alpha, I mean Chad Gable and Jason Jordan as baby faces who can actually go out there, put on a good show, and kick some ass, and get over again the way that they used to. That is how the Raw Tag Team titles go. It's not the most glamorous thing in the world. It's pretty obvious that the Authors of Pain should win those titles. I'm just going to put the titles on them. Why not? I see no reason why that should be an issue. The last match of, I'm assuming, the first hour of the night is going to be for the United States Championship, and that is Finn Balor defending the title against Shinsuke Nakamura. And this is where the Jeff Hardy thing comes in. Instead of Jinder Mahal dropping the United States title to Jeff Hardy, who then goes over to SmackDown, it would be Finn Balor who wins the United States title. The rationale being, Kurt Angle would say, hey, you know what? Finn Balor just had a hell of a match at WrestleMania, and I think that he deserves an actual another title shot, but I'm not going to have him go up against Seth Rollins. Spoiler alert, Seth Rollins is the Intercontinental Champion. Obviously, because that happens at WrestleMania. That's not a spoiler. That's pretty stupid for me to say that. So he gets the title shot. He beats Jinder Mahal and retains and goes over to SmackDown. I'm specifically moving him over to SmackDown for one reason and one reason only. AJ Styles. Down the line at WrestleMania 35, I want one of 2 matches. Either AJ Styles fights Finn Balor, who has at that point turned heel. Heel Finn Balor, to me, I think, would make more sense than babyface Balor. Or, if we could hire Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, and the Young Bucks, which I'm not banking on. That's why I have my backup option of Balor versus Styles. If we can hire those 4, then what we get at WrestleMania is AJ Styles, Finn Balor, Carl Anderson, and Luke Gallows against the Young Bucks, Cody Rhodes, and Kenny Omega. Effectively being Kenny Omega versus AJ Styles, Finn Balor versus Cody Rhodes, Good Brothers against the Young Bucks. That's basically what I want to go with. So, in the meantime, Shinsuke Nakamura fails to win the championship from AJ Styles at WrestleMania. He gets a rematch at Greatest Royal Rumble, and then he falls off the wayside a little bit. But by the time we get around to SummerSlam, he's getting a United States Championship match. He doesn't have 17 matches with AJ Styles or anything like that. He has a little feud with somebody else in the meantime, maybe like Rusev or something like that. And by this point, he gets a shot at the United States title, but he comes up short, most likely. And somebody else will end up winning it from Balor down the line. And more than likely, that'll be Andrade, Cien, Almas, who wins that title. Moving on to hour 2, we've got one of the hardest things for me to explain here to a certain extent. The SmackDown Tag Team Championship is on the line in a Lumberjack match between 2 different heel groups, the Bludgeon Brothers and SAnitY. Here's where it gets a little confusing. The fact that it's a Lumberjack match is going to be a mandate from either Shane McMahon or Paige or whoever is running SmackDown. Maybe it's not Paige who's done it. Maybe not. I don't know. Who cares, kind of. SAnitY has been proving themselves to be destructive, and the Bludgeon Brothers are, of course, very destructive. So they say, you know what? To make sure that we keep things from getting out of hand, the Usos, the New Day, the Bar, the Good Brothers, any of the tag teams that are on SmackDown, whoever the case may be, they have to surround the ring and keep the action in the ring. Totally doesn't happen. Everything goes to hell. It's total chaos, and this is a weird booking scenario that I'm sure would piss off some people. And this is the first time I can think of me doing a fantasy booking scenario where I'm actively choosing something that I think WWE would do that I would be pissed off about to a certain extent. But hear me out. The match ends in a no contest. And it ends that way because SAnitY cares more about valuing the total chaos of the situation than actually winning the tag team titles. And I'm going to repeat this phrase later on of cares more about in a later match, but it's a different kind of scenario. Basically what happens here is you've got the Bludgeon Brothers and SAnitY get into some kind of a scuffle with all the other tag teams. And instead of attacking each other in the process, they kind of unite and attack all of the other Lumberjacks. And there's almost an alliance that's formed. Harper and Rowan, Killian Dane, Eric Young, and Alexander Wolf all kind of agree to set aside their differences, so kind of, to just beat the living hell out of everybody. And afterward, SAnitY just kind of runs off. And everybody goes, what the hell is the matter with them? They don't even want to try to fight for the tag titles? What's going on? Later on, after this, there will be some kind of a promo on SmackDown where they'll just be like, look, we're not here for championships. We're not here for whatever. We're here to create chaos. And that's what we're going to do every night, no matter what. The Bludgeon Brothers are kind of in the same boat as them, so maybe there's some matches in the future where it's the Bludgeon Brothers and SAnitY against like the Usos and the New Day. Different things like that can play around with a little bit here. And maybe even SAnitY wins the tag titles from the Bludgeon Brothers a couple months away from this. I actually don't know what I would do with the SmackDown tag titles going into like WrestleMania and stuff. But maybe they do win. Maybe they just go, hey, part of the chaos is flipping the script, and we decided to beat the Bludgeon Brothers in the middle of a fatal 4-way match or something like that. That, I think, can be fun. But in order to do that, you have to set a precedent that there isn't just the standard, these people are going to be so crazy, but then they're going to start wrestling and then act like wrestlers. It just seems foolish to me. So it's a no contest. Nobody wins this match. And at that point, the crowd is going, what the hell did we just sit through? And it's just going to be like the pay-per-view is going to be overbooked and all this other kind of stuff. People are going to get worried, I'm sure, to a certain extent. Keep all that in mind. To counteract those fears, we're going to go with just a basic wrestling match. Seth Rollins is the Intercontinental Champion. He's been on a roll since WrestleMania. He's been kicking some ass, putting on some great matches here and there. And he's paired up with Kevin Owens because Kevin Owens can work really well. And he just simply beats Kevin Owens. There's not all that much to it. One of the main reasons why he needs to retain here is because he's going to drop that title to Dean Ambrose. But I started this out going, oh, he's going to drop it to Dean Ambrose, who turns heel. Not really. Dean Ambrose is going to win that title in some kind of a triple threat or a fatal four-way. And that's going to start causing a bit of a rift between them. It's going to be more so, hey, dude, you didn't beat me for the championship, and you're my friend, and I thought you had my back a little bit. Like, you know, that's kind of a terrible thing for you to do. I understand why you did it, because you want to win the title too, but you kind of screwed me over a little bit. That was my title. And Ambrose is going to be a little bit just kind of like, sucks, bro. And we're going to essentially tease this idea that either one of them could turn heel, but neither one of them is going to. Seth Rollins is going to stay a babyface for sure. Dean Ambrose is going to be a tweener. And I'll spoil something for later on when it comes to talking about some other matches and stuff like that. But Roman Reigns will have turned heel by the time we go to WrestleMania. And that sets up that Shield match that we've been wanting to get, where babyface Seth Rollins, tweener Dean Ambrose, and full-on heel Roman Reigns all fight each other. Probably Roman Reigns wins that one, just to piss off some people. That's where we're going. That's where we're heading. There's no championship on the line for that triple threat. There is just a bit of a rivalry going on between the Shield brothers. And I would even play around a little bit with the idea that Roman Reigns as a heel doesn't necessarily act 100% like a heel to these two guys. So it's nuance. It's Rollins and Ambrose and Reigns all fighting each other. They're all brothers. And you actually don't have just like necessarily 100% that you can root one way or the other. More than likely, though, people are going to boo Roman Reigns, so he's a heel. And Roman Reigns is going to be a heel for other things, too. Capping off Hour 2 is the SmackDown Women's Championship match, which is a handicap match between Asuka defending the title against the Iconics, Peyton Royce and Billie Kay. The way that this goes down is Carmella cashes in Money in the Bank pretty much right after WrestleMania. She then has a match against Charlotte at Backlash, and she retains the title there through some kind of shenanigans, just, BS. She can't really beat Charlotte Flair, but she, puts her feet up on the ropes or something like that. Asuka is the next to challenge Carmella and wipes the floor with her. Wins the title at Money in the Bank, kicks her ass. Not even close. At the next event, which may or may not be Extreme Rules, doesn't matter. It's not going to be like a gimmick thing other than potentially Extreme Rules. They have another fight, and Asuka wipes the floor with her again, very easily. And this is where we start to see the very, very first inclination that Asuka is starting to get a little bit of a big head about herself. This is very similar to the way that she did this in NXT, where she was just like, I'm so great, and nobody can beat me, nobody is ready for Asuka, I'm just gonna, dance around a little bit, that kind of thing. And anytime that somebody remembers that she lost to Charlotte Flair and brings it up, she gets pissed, and she lashes out. And she's not a full heel here. Not yet. So she's working with the Iconics. The Iconics are teasing her about that loss and saying that she can, she'll lose again, like she's just a paper champion, all this other kind of stuff like that. And Asuka, being her ego, the way that it is, says in so many words, the hell with you two, I can beat you both up. And she struggles here, but she does retain the title. But that just makes her get a little bit more egotistical. And we see this kind of thing work its way through. And eventually, she is going to lose the SmackDown Women's Championship to Ember Moon. I don't know exactly when. It might be at WrestleMania 35. Might be a little bit before that. I don't really know. And that'll be the chance for Ember Moon to get her victory over Asuka that she never got in NXT. Now, this also means that Ember Moon goes over to SmackDown with the whole Superstar shakeup and calling up from NXT. not Monday Night Raw. Something to keep in mind about that. Hour 3 is going to have the men's version of that SummerSlam Scramble match, which will be featuring Daniel Bryan, Dolph Ziggler, Drew McIntyre, The Miz, and Roman Reigns. Basically the same kind of scenario as the women's Scramble match. By now, people have watched the pre-show. They understand how it works. And more than likely, this is for a number 1 contender shot. Same thing as the women's. Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre aren't on a tag team. They may not even be on the same brand. And if they are on the same brand, they're in a feud. Drew McIntyre is a babyface. He is not a heel. Dolph Ziggler is not the Intercontinental Champion. Daniel Bryan and The Miz have not had a match together, but they still continue to have their issues. And Roman Reigns is essentially the guy that is there causing some issues and getting between pretty much everything. That's kind of how I look at it. And I mentioned before in the match with the SmackDown tag titles that the SAnitY group cares more about chaos than they do winning. Well, in this scenario, The Miz cares more about making sure Daniel Bryan doesn't win than making sure that he himself does win the match. So he will be focused more so on screwing Daniel Bryan out of getting that final interim win at the very end of this, rather than him trying to score a pinfall. You kind of get what I'm going with, where it's more just vindictive, just like, I got you, you didn't win, you were going to win, and I didn't let you. And then it would be like, well, you didn't win either. And it's like, I don't care, because I'm holding the Money in the Bank briefcase. That's what Miz cares the most about. Later on, that's going to be a big, big factor, and we're going to get to that. But I don't know who would win this one. I also would have wanted to throw in like Chad Gable or Ty Dillinger, but you throw in too many people, it gets a little too confusing, and it becomes too big of a match and whatever. Maybe I would go with Drew McIntyre. It would depend. And it would depend on a couple different factors. One of them being if this is a number 1 contenders match, and if Drew McIntyre is on SmackDown, then it makes perfect sense for him to win because he's a babyface and he can fight the winner of the next match, which we'll get to in a minute. If not, then maybe The Miz actually does win or something like that. I mean, there's some, you can play around a little bit on here, but I would think more than likely Drew McIntyre wins this, and this is kind of the start of him getting a main event push, so to speak. He doesn't win a title or anything like that. He will eventually win like a mid-card title, but maybe this is the first time where you go, all right, well, you know what? He is here to play. He does have a good look to him, and they're serious about pushing him. But first, we have to figure out who the champion is on SmackDown. The WWE Championship is on the line between Bobby Roode and AJ Styles. And this is how the setup of this goes. Bobby Roode stays on SmackDown. He does not go over to Monday Night Raw. And I thought that was a mistake. And I also thought it was a mistake to turn him babyface and to keep him babyface all this time. I don't think that it's been working at all. So instead, he turns heel. And he beats AJ Styles for the championship at whatever event is prior to this. It could be Extreme Rules. It could be No Mercy. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. He beats him the month before this. So this is Styles having his rematch clause. And they have a kick-ass match. Styles looks like he's going to win. And he gets hit with an RKO out of nowhere. Randy Orton has been injured. We see that that's been the case. This is where he makes his return, and he basically He basically does what he's been doing, which is his whole, I used to be the legend killer, then I became a legend, and I'm going to kill the legends that are around here and kind of be the legend killer again. I like that kind of thing. I like that gimmick. So he does it with AJ Styles as the first person that he's going for. And he goes, AJ Styles wasn't here when I was building my fucking legacy. So I'm going to take out him because he says this is the house that AJ Styles built. No. This is the house with the Randy Orton Foundation. I'm the foundation of this kind of thing. And he basically continues that. I don't think that the feud with Jeff Hardy makes as much sense. A feud with AJ Styles, that's something I want to see. Then when we get to Bobby Roode, he will eventually drop this title to Daniel Bryan. More than likely, he'll drop it at whatever the event before Survivor Series is, or potentially even the event after Survivor Series. I don't really know. I'm thinking probably the one beforehand. Probably the one that would happen in October, which would not be Hell in a Cell. It would not be, whatever. Maybe it's the Super Showdown. That would be good. You know, Melbourne, Australia. Maybe they'd get the extra little thing there if that's like set in stone that we're doing that pay-per-view or something. Which, by the way, I'd probably do the Evolution pay-per-view too, you know, because the Greatest Royal Rumble is kind of a mess. And, you know, why don't we do the Evolution thing too? So we could do something for the women there. We could do something for the men with the other pay-per-views. Obviously, the men are not going to wrestle at Evolution, so it's not going to be that event. But AJ Styles loses here. Rude keeps the title. Rude drops it to Daniel Bryan. And as soon as Daniel Bryan wins that title, fucking Miz comes swooping in, takes that title away from him with the Money in the Bank. And the Miz gets a night off when it comes to Survivor Series, because Survivor Series is champion versus champion. So he's going to be going up against somebody that he's going to lose to. We will talk about him in not the next one, but the one after that. And Daniel Bryan is going to be gunning for the Miz really, really badly. In December, there's going to be a scenario where Daniel Bryan is trying to get his rematch clause figured out, and the Miz will screw him out of it. And then the Royal Rumble happens. Daniel Bryan wins the Royal Rumble as he should have in the past, and he beats the Miz at WrestleMania 35, wins the championship, and we go on that kind of route. I think that it's the best way to do it. I think that the Miz winning the Money in the Bank is predictable, and some of this stuff goes down the way that people would expect it to go down, but predictable isn't necessarily bad, just as unpredictable isn't necessarily good. And I think that overall, this is a story that people would love to see. Not only do you get Bobby Roode taking the title away from AJ Styles, and he's a heel, so he has something going for him that he doesn't have right now in the actual climate, but you get Bobby Roode versus Daniel Bryan. You get The Miz winning the championship again. You get him main eventing WrestleMania to a certain extent. A lot of things work out really well. This one's going to be a pretty quick one. It's exactly what we're getting now. Alexa Bliss is going to lose the Raw Women's Championship to Ronda Rousey. I can't see any better scenario than that. Ronda Rousey, over the next couple of months, has matches against Sasha Banks and Bayley and Nia Jax and anybody else that's on Monday Night Raw. Ruby Riott, if she's not injured. And even Natalya, because Natalya is in the corner of Ronda Rousey in here to balance out the equation of Mickie James being in the corner of Alexa Bliss. And it pretty much goes down the way that you would expect it to go down. Ronda Rousey eventually has a match at Survivor Series against Asuka. Now, in that scenario, remember, by this time, Asuka is a heel. Ronda Rousey's still a babyface. So Ronda Rousey beats Asuka, and that's her second loss. And she's pissed. That kind of a thing, you know. So it just makes her more of a heel. And Ronda Rousey eventually is going to fight Charlotte Flair in the main event of WrestleMania 35. Charlotte Flair wins the Women's Royal Rumble. And when she does that, she jumps ship over to Monday Night Raw to be able to do that challenge. Pretty much how I expect some of these things to be going down as it is. Well, a couple little tweaks in there because obviously Asuka's not the champion and, you know, all the other kind of things like that. But yeah, Alexa Bliss and Ronda Rousey makes sense to me. We're in the final hour of this event. People are kind of tired, but we got two big matches coming up. One of them is for the Universal Championship, and it's Bobby Lashley going in as the champion against Samoa Joe, who has not moved over to SmackDown, for one major reason why. I want him to be fighting Braun Strowman at WrestleMania. So this is how we get to that point. Bobby Lashley returns after WrestleMania, and instead of being paired up with Braun Strowman and doing the whole not a tag team, but always tag teaming kind of nonsense, he comes straight for Brock Lesnar. They have a title match at the Greatest Royal Rumble, and Bobby Lashley wins. It's just, I'm not the biggest fan of Bobby Lashley in the world. I don't think that he can do well on promos. I don't think that he's all that crazy entertaining in the ring. But you know what? We need some legitimacy to Bobby Lashley to reestablish him. He is an MMA type of guy. Brock Lesnar's an MMA type of guy. And instead of the two having a cage match at the Greatest Royal Rumble, they have some kind of like that whole octagon scenario kind of thing. I think that would appeal to the different people in Saudi Arabia, and a new champion being crowned is something that they would have fun with. After that point, Bobby Lashley has feuds with Baron Corbin. I like the Constable Corbin thing. He does the Constable Corbin thing. Once Constable Once Constable Corbin is out of the way, I don't really care who he fights. He beats Jinder Mahal, I guess. Maybe Roman Reigns. It doesn't really matter. Samoa Joe gets the shot here, and he wins the title. They have a rematch at the next event, and then they just move on from each other. Bobby Lashley fights fucking Kevin Owens, I don't know, and Samoa Joe starts fighting Seth Rollins. He starts going up against, I don't know, take your pick, whatever the case may be. But he's particularly dodging Braun Strowman. And he even goes out of his way when it comes to the Royal Rumble that Braun Strowman is doing a hell of a job there, and Samoa Joe comes out and attacks him and makes sure that he doesn't win the Royal Rumble because he does not want to fight Braun Strowman. Strowman is a bad guy. He does not want to go up against him. And little does he know, the whole Elimination Chamber thing is coming up, and Braun Strowman is, because Daniel Bryan wins the Royal Rumble, it means the Elimination Chamber is a Monday Night Raw #1 contenders match. Braun Strowman is going to be the guy who wins that. And the way that he wins that is he eliminates whoever he needs to eliminate, but the last one being Roman Reigns, because we need to undo what happened at last year's Elimination Chamber. He beats Roman Reigns for that. He beats Samoa Joe for the Universal title at WrestleMania 35. And somewhere down the line in 2019, it might be after Money in the Bank, and it might be because of the Money in the Bank, Braun Strowman will lose it to Kevin Owens. Just to put that out there. And our last match on the card is a loser leaves town match between Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar. I'm assuming Brock Lesnar is not going to be wrestling past SummerSlam. And I don't know if I necessarily even want him to. At this point, he's beaten Roman Reigns far too many times that Roman Reigns winning won't matter at all, because it'll be like, wow, I won the 1 out of our 6 matches or something. He should have just lost at WrestleMania, but he also should not have been the champion going into WrestleMania. He shouldn't have been the champion with Goldberg. None of that kind of stuff should have happened, but I can't go back in time that far. So instead, I'm going straight with the whole Bobby Lashley thing. And after Brock Lesnar loses the Universal title to Bobby Lashley, he is furious about it. He and Paul Heyman tried to strut their stuff, tried to get special treatment. They want that to be stricken from the record. They don't understand these rules. This isn't the Octagon, all this other kind of stuff like that. And he is also butthurt about it, and he feels emasculated. So he picks a fight with everybody. And there's an episode of Monday Night Raw where Brock Lesnar beats the shit out of Kurt Hawkins, out of Mojo Rawley, out of anybody. If you can get him to go, he even beats the shit out of the 205 Live roster. He is just wrecking people because he's mad. He's, what happens when you use a cattle prod on a rhino, essentially. And he eventually picks a fight with the wrong person, Braun Strowman. He's beaten Braun Strowman before. He's not that big of a deal. I beat you when I fought Kane and you at the Royal Rumble. I beat you at SummerSlam. I beat you at No Mercy. Well, Braun Strowman's not having any of it. And the two of them cause so much destruction that Kurt Angle, or whoever is going to be doing this mandate, says, look, I can't have both of you here. One of you has to go. And the two of you are going to fight. It's going to be a no disqualification match. And the loser has to leave. You're fired from WWE. Brock Lesnar loses. Because I think Brock Lesnar, at this point in his career, has done nothing for anybody, for the most part. And I want him to put over Bobby Lashley to give him some legitimacy, so that way he can give that to Samoa Joe, and then Joe can give that to Braun Strowman. And I want Braun Strowman to beat Brock Lesnar here, so that way, when we get to WrestleMania 35, there is no question Braun Strowman versus Samoa Joe are the two big behemoths in WWE. And to see them clash is going to be like, oh man, this is going to go down. I think that that's the best way to go about things. So, yay, that's my card. Now that you have sat through 40 minutes of me explaining what's not going to happen at SummerSlam, I want to know what you guys have to think about this. Is this better than what we are going to be getting? Would you have rather this be the main universe that we have and the universe that we're using right now and going through is the alternate universe that we go, well, you know, could have been worse. It could have been this, or whatever like that. What do you think about my decisions? And for that matter, what would your card be if you had creative control and you could control these kind of things? I want to know what your cards are in the comments section below. If you're listening to this on iTunes and Stitcher, just go to the page on smarkoutmoment.com that has this. You can leave a comment there. Make sure that you also hit that subscribe button on YouTube if you're listening on there, and ring the bell for notifications, so that way you can be aware of the next things that are going to be popping up on this channel. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at SmarkOutMoment. If you have the spare change and you want to show your support for this channel's growth and the website's growth, then hit us up on the Patreon account, or buy a t-shirt or some other kind of merchandise over on our Redbubble or our TeePublic stuff. And make sure that you check out the weekly articles and everything else that's happening on smarkoutmoment.com. Also, check out fanboysanonymous.com for all my movie review type material, the Week in Geek content, and whenever anything else that happens on that. And I will see you when I see you, everybody. Hopefully, this is not going to be something that's going to be too crazy with my schedule. The reason I'm doing this ahead of time, I'm actually recording this at 5:40 in the morning on Monday the 30th, is because I don't know if I'm going to have to do jury duty. And if I do, I don't know when, and I don't know for how long, and all that other kind of crap. So I wanted to get this out of the way, just in case, just so I could know for sure that I could do the editing process and stuff. So keep that in mind, everybody. Hopefully that's not going to be an issue, but we'll see. I don't know. Thank you for listening to this, everybody. As always, I will see you when I see you. This has been another Smark Out moment, and I'm being counted out.